In this video, I'm gonna show you how to turn this into this into this, and create that beautiful light and airy style that is super popular right now. Plus, if you stay to the end, I'm gonna give you a nice little bonus, or somewhere in the video, maybe not the end, so don't think you can just jump ahead. Let's get into it. Will Simpson here, and welcome back to Exploring Photography. It is always good to see your face around here every single week, putting in the work and making yourself the best photographer that you can be. Today, we're gonna go over that light and airy edit, and it's something that I am not too familiar with because I personally love the moody style. Ever since I started photography, it's always what I kind of fell into. But I found myself only able to do that style, and I would have clients come to me and they would say, "Hey Will, love your work, but can you do this style?" And I was like, well, I guess, but I found it was a little bit harder than I expected because there are some camera ways to shoot the picture in camera to get that style, ways of setup to get that style, and ways of editing to, again, get that style. But as a professional photographer, am I going to be the one that says, no, you have to do this look because this is my look? Yeah, I guess a lot of photographers could do that, but I think that defeats the purpose of the word professional. As a professional, you should know your camera, how to do different edits, different styles. You should know these things so when a client comes to you on something that isn't necessarily your specialty, you still have the know-how to do it. So I figured out, I learned, and over the past couple of months, I've been working on how to do the pictures and how to do the edits and have learned how to do this style. So I'm gonna walk you through an editing process, and at the end of it, you can actually save the preset, so you'll have the free preset, and give you that light and airy style of my favorite. So let's get into Lightroom, long, drawn out intro, and get started. Okay, so here we are in Lightroom, and here's a couple of edits. So this one, here's the before, here's the after, here's the before, here's the after, before, after, before, after, before, and after. So we're gonna work on this photo, and you probably noticed a common denominator that a lot of these photos have lots of whites and they have lots of neutral colors. They do have greens, like this one has greens and oranges, but it still has primarily white. So when you are taking these photos, remember the light and airy look looks best when it's the photo itself is light and airy, lots of whites and lots of neutrals. When you add in those moody colors, those dark, deep colors, the dark greens, the browns, the blacks, the reds, you can do light and airy, but make sure your image is primarily a light color. It makes editing these photos much easier and much more natural looking. So this is the photo we're gonna do. So here's the before, and here's what we're gonna turn it into. So let's go ahead and reset this. Now make sure you follow along because at the end you can then save this as a preset. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is go into the basic tab. Now, the first thing we're gonna adjust is the temperature. We're gonna bring this down a little because warm, you can do warm, but you also can do cool. It kind of depends on the image. In this case, she has some paler skin, so we're gonna keep it a little bit pale. If we put orange in her skin, it wouldn't look super natural. So we're gonna drop this down to -7. The tint, we're actually gonna raise to +8 because we want that kind of rosy, pinky look. It looks really nice on this. Now this is a very simple one, exposure. We're gonna raise this to about 70. Now already we look better just by raising the exposure. So before, after. I mean, immediately we have light and airy. Look, you could call it a done there, boom. But you might think, well, why don't I just raise the exposure on all the images? You'll see. Okay, moving on. The next thing is contrast. When you do light and airy, you need to put a difference in the blacks and whites to create separation in the image. So if we raise the contrast, you notice how much vibrant, how much more intense the image gets. This is key when it comes to the light and airy. So let's put +35 there. Now highlights, we do wanna bring some detail back. So let's go ahead and drop the highlights to about -32. And then on the shadows, we're gonna raise them because we wanna get rid of a lot of the blacks. We're gonna raise them to +45. Good, now we're looking good. And the whites, this is also a light and airy key. Raise this to +40. Now I've already done this edit, so obviously I know where I'm going with this, but you can kind of tweak it as you see fit and as the different photos when you apply this to might require a few adjustments here and there. But actually this seems a little bright to me, so I'm gonna actually lower this to plus 25. I think that looks good. Good, and then the blacks we're actually gonna raise because we don't want a deep black point. We're gonna raise this to plus 30. Now the only thing I'm not liking is this white is really blown out. So we're gonna lower the white a little bit, actually, to minus 15, bring some of that detail back. There we go. Okay, good, I like this. Now, clarity. With clarity, especially when you're dealing with skin, you don't wanna overdo clarity because it makes the skin really harsh. But we do want a little bit of more contrast here. So we're just gonna raise this to plus 4, not much, just a shade. And then vibrance to bring back a little bit of color that's in the image. We're gonna raise this to plus 15. We're not gonna touch the saturation because we don't wanna deal with that. But notice how that vibrance gives a little bit of glow here up on her forehead, and it kind of makes her lips pop, just makes it kind of stand out a little bit more. Now the next thing is the tone curve, and this is a huge, huge one, and it makes a lot of really nice adjustments very, very easily. But first, before we get into the tone curve, to make this super simple for you, I actually created 10 presets, 10 Light and Airy presets, which are now available on my website. They are incredible, and they include this one along with 9 others that work on all of the photos that you saw in the beginning and the ones you're seeing on the screen now. But I also created a code that's called, that is the right code, right code, that'll give you 50% off for the first 10 people who use this code and download the presets on my website. So either now or after this video, click the link, use the code right code, and you'll get the presets for 50% off for the first 15 that get the presets. Okay, good. Now let's move on to the tone curve, which is awesome. So we're gonna make 2 adjustments, one in the white and one in the green. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna make the points. We're gonna make a point here. We're gonna make a point right above the shadows, right below the shadows. Then we're gonna make a point right above the midtones and a point right after the midtones. So we should have a total of 6 points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Perfect. Then we're gonna lower the shadows right here, just a shade. I mean, not even much. And we're going to boost just above the shadows, just a shade. Then we're going to lower the midtones just a shade, and we're going to lower the highlights just a shade. And it should be a very nice, soft curve, nothing crazy. Then we're gonna go into the greens, and we're going to make 2 points. We wanna add a little bit of magenta, so we're gonna make a point right here, and a point right below the midtones, and we're just going to nicely dip this down. Not too much, because you see how much pink it adds a lot. Like if I pull this down, it adds a ton. So just a smidge and just a smidge here. Again, not too much. Actually, let's raise that a shade. There we go, okay, perfect. Good. So, oh, it's got such a little bit amount. That's why it's easier to have the preset, so you don't have to get this too wrong. But you can adjust this as needed. Now, I'm not gonna do this in this one, but what you also can do is you can remove the blacks. Some people like that faded look, so if you wanna do that, simply take this black point here and just raise that up a little, and that will give kind of a stylistic, soft, kind of old school style image, vintage look to it. It'll raise the blacks so they're not deep blacks and they're kind of faded out. I actually like that, so I'm gonna leave it as is there because that looks really, really pretty. Really fast, let's look at the before and the after. So we've made some huge adjustments. I mean, this image, I absolutely love how this image is looking, but we're not done yet. So let's move on to the next thing, which is in the hues. We're gonna go into hue. Now this adjustment is for other images that maybe have green in them, but because I've tested this preset on several images, I have made this adjustment, and just so you're gonna save it, I want you to have it as is, but it doesn't affect this image in any way. But that is the green. We're gonna raise the green hue to plus 17, and that just affects greens in other images. It works really, really nice to make them bright and light and green rather than kind of a brownish look. Next, we're gonna go into saturation. We're going to adjust the oranges to -5. We're going to adjust the yellows to -40. And we're going to adjust the greens to -20. Once that's done, we're gonna go into the luminance and we're going to raise the greens to make them pop again for the other images to plus 30, 32. I like even numbers. Even and round numbers work really nice for me. Okay, good. Once that's done, we're gonna move on to the color grade. And this adds just a little bit of extra pop to the image. It's very subtle, but it does make a difference. The first thing is the shadows, so click the dark circle here, and we're going to just enter these numbers in to get them exact. So if you can also click this wheel and you can just spin around and see kind of what it does. So you can play with this all you want and adjust it to exactly the specifications that you want. It does not have to be this exact. If you want something specific, sure, by all means, do something specific. Like even this little green color, that's actually pretty nice. I actually kind of like that. But we're gonna stick standard here, even though I might come back and do that later, because this is the before and this is the after of just that. It's pretty nice. Okay, so, but we're going to stay on task. So we're gonna change the hue to 36 and the saturation to 13. This is gonna, hue to 36 and saturation to 13. So this is gonna add some warmth into the dark parts of the image, which makes it look really nice and soft and kind of glowy. It's a really, really good way to do it. Then let's go into the midtones, and we're going to do 337 as the hue and 4 as the saturation. Super, super low. This is again gonna add some warmth into the midtones of her skin. So keep it very natural and light. And then the next thing is the highlights, and we're going to do 123 and a saturation of 7, which is going to add a little tinge of green to offset that pink that we threw in the temperature, and this will kind of keep that clear white beautifulness in it. Okay, good. Now, once we're done with the color grading, we're gonna go into detail, and we're gonna add about 40 points of sharpening. This is image specific, so you can adjust this one as the image requires it. You may not need any sharpening, but I always like to have these very sharp on the image. And then I don't normally do masking with this, but we're gonna add a little bit of masking. So press and hold Option, click the masking button, and then slide this, because I just want this affecting those lines, really crisping out those lines, making it just a shade sharper. And we're just gonna add a slim bit of color reduction, let's say 20. This will reduce any color noise in the image that shows up in any image, but it won't really take it away from any image. Next, let's go into lens correction. I wanna add a vignette, but I wanna add it in this, because in the manual portion of lens correction, because it's a little bit more natural. We're going to just boost this, let's see, this way. We're gonna boost it right to about 10. And again, this is image specific, because I don't necessarily need to add this vignette, but it's brightening up the edges, not darkening the edges. And the reason I'm doing that is because there's these dark spots on both sides of this specific image. It may not work the same in other images, but that's what we're gonna do, and we're gonna leave it like that. And then finally, you could go into effects and you could add a vignette, but that again is image specific. I'll let you add or not to do that. But once you're done, that is the image right there. So here's the before, and here is the after. That is incredible, and that is the perfect light and airy look. So this preset that we just created is Light and Airy 10, and in a second I'll show you how to save it if you don't know how, but let me show you what it looks like on another image. Here's another image, and let's just go ahead and apply it. So Light and Airy 10, boom, looks so good. Before, after. Here's another one, and here's before, and let's apply it, boom, after. And this isn't a wedding photo. Like, this works on all of your photos, your daily photos, your couples photos, great for family shoots. This preset pack is awesome. I have tested it on so many photos, and it just makes the images just bright and airy with those really nice skin tones, and looks really, really good. Now let's save this preset. So with this image selected and all of our edits done here, let's go up into Develop, New Preset, and I'm just gonna save this in the Light and Airy one. I'm going to title it Light and Airy 10. Make sure all of these are selected, and once done, just press Create. And since I've already done it, I'm not gonna actually press Create, but once you have done this, you will have that preset, which you can use all you want. And that's it. That is how to create the light and airy style. It's very different. I'm very used to the moody style. This took a little bit of figuring out on how to edit it, but it looks so good, so clean and crisp, and just makes the images kind of pop. I'm actually really starting to like it. So that leads me to a question. So comment below, what do you like? What is your style? What is your opinion? Do you like the moody? Do you like the really dark? Do you like the light and airy? I'm kind of curious what the community of photographers really prefer, to see kind of a poll here. Anyways, go ahead and like the video, subscribe if you haven't already. I want to thank all of my patrons for the support of this channel. If you do want to become a patron, I'll leave a link in the description and you can become part of that community as well, which we offer lots of cool stuff for the patron communities alone. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next week, and YouTube probably recommends you go watch this video next, so go watch this video next. See you guys next week.